Hello, beautiful souls. Greetings from nutritionwithvibha.com. 10th of October, the World Mental Health Day. And we thought from nutritionwithvibha.com that this is a conversation that we should start and initiate on what are the various ways to look at mental health, preservation of it, as well as its issues. So, with 792 million people worldwide suffering from mental disorders, and with in India, 58 million suffering from depression, and about 38 million suffering from anxiety, and these are the diagnosed numbers. It is high time we have the conversation on how to preserve and protect mental health and sense of well-being, as well as how to address these issues in a very strong way. We often look at physical health as something that needs to be addressed. But if we look at the component of health, we do know that physical health is one part, and as is mental health, as is social health, emotional health, spiritual health, and financial health, and as is the quality of life that we are talking about. Everything together is a composite of health. Then how can we only focus on one aspect, which is the physical health? We need to look at every other aspect too. And mental health is one very important component of that. And when we look at why do people have mental well-being issues or challenges or disorders, what we are in the current frame of understanding is that it is a mix of genetics, and it is because of the experiences of life, and it is also because of the environment, be it the social environment, be it the family environment, or be it the nutrition and lifestyle environment. And yes, the question comes to your mind, I'm sure, really, nutrition and lifestyle, how would that play a role in mental health? Well, we at nutritionwithvibha.com said we need to have this conversation, and we need to bring out some possibilities ahead in front of us. So let's look at those possibilities. The first one is what happens during the fetal period, because what is the nutrition that is available for the fetus is going to determine the brain growth. It's also going to determine behavior. And what current research tells us is that if there is adequacy of the right carbohydrate, and if there is vitamin and mineral in the right proportion, iron is a case point example here, then the relationship between good nutrition during the fetal period, and therefore the in the offspring, the mental health issues or challenges or behavior challenges during childhood or adulthood is decreased. And this is what current research is telling us about. And therefore, what is a message we need to take ahead is that preconceptual nutrition counseling becomes imperative when we look at it from this scenario. And every woman who is pregnant should have a touch point with a nutritionist to address these issues and make sure that they're eating right. The second is neurotransmitters. So for every thought, for every behavior, and for the sense of mental well-being, the key masters playing the role of getting all this organized are the neurotransmitters. Neurotransmitters are nothing but molecules which are made in the body from the molecules that we eat, that is from our food. Let us take an example. So there is serotonin on one side, which is that beautiful, calming a neurotransmitter, which gives us this beautiful sense of relaxation. And on the other hand, there is dopamine, which is very much required to be enthusiastic, energetic, and have the drive. And we both need both of it. Now, if the neurotransmitter synthesis in the body is affected, which is driven by nutrition, if the molecules are not adequate in the food, then some synthesis of the neurotransmitters could be affected, and that could play a role in a diminished sense of well-being. The third aspect, the gut health. By now, most of us are aware that we have this beautiful teeming population of microorganisms in our intestines. And we also know there are two kinds of microorganisms. One, which is good for our body. Basically, they synthesize molecules which work to promote health. And there are the harmful microorganisms, those which produce molecules in the intestine, which harm our health, which diminish health. And this is very important for mental health too. So, for example, what kind of foods are we eating? Are we eating foods which have some good microbial culture in it, and therefore it's going to colonize our gut in the right way? And secondly, very important is, are we feeding them right? What foods are we feeding them with? Are we feeding them with wholesome, nourishing foods, which have the fiber component, which have the phytonutrient component, and the micronutrient aspects, vitamins and minerals in it? Are we feeding our microorganisms, the ones that we want to keep, that is, those kind of foods? Or are we feeding, for example, if there is candida, a fungus in the gut, candida thrives on sugar. So are we feeding sugar to candida, and are we getting that candida to thrive in the intestine? And candida can make some molecules which can be absorbed and which can cross the blood-brain barrier and then cause issues in behavior and in attitudes, thought processes, and mental disorders. So, right from autism disease spectrum to depression to anxiety to schizophrenia, we have identified molecules from the gut, from the wrong kind of microorganisms that can affect any of this. The next aspect is, what are the nutrients we are taking? So we can use this information to prevent mental health disorders, and also we can use this information to manage people with mental health issues, because those with affected with depression or anxiety or schizophrenia or psychosis, they're not eating right at all. So what kind of nutrients have seen to be beneficial? Let's take some examples. So the omega-3 fatty acids, which the kind which we get from walnuts and flax seeds and fish like salmon and tuna, they are the ones that can actually cause a reduction in aggression in people. Interesting, isn't it? The second thing is, if we look at the studies on depression and anxiety, multiple nutrients have been identified, like zinc, vitamin D, the right kind of carbohydrates, the right kind of proteins, good quality proteins, the right kind of exercise. All this has been identified in the management of people with depression and anxiety, and also in the prevention of this to a certain extent. Then we look at schizophrenia, which is the extreme end of the spectrum, where we are looking at all the vitamin deficiencies and mineral deficiencies. If we address it, it actually will make a difference in the patient's psychological issues. So these are some examples, and research tells us much more, and there's lots more to talk about. But at least this, if you are open eyed about, is going to make that start into our thinking differently with relation to nutrition and mental health. The fifth point is lifestyle. So, what kind of lifestyle do we have? Is it a stressed lifestyle where we are sleeping less, and there's a lot of emotional stress or work stress, environmental stress is very high? Because what we have to remember is, and this has been established, if the stress is high, it's going to lead to increased cortisol, which is going to suppress the thyroid and therefore suppress the metabolism, including the metabolism of the brain. So we are seeing a lot of links between high cortisol levels and then on depression in populations. So what kind of lifestyle is it? And therefore we need to relook at a balance, and how are we going to manage stress, and how are we going to react to stress? What are our coping strategies? And this is very important for us to look at. And of course, coming to the point of exercise, because while we exercise produces natural endorphins, which is a feel good factor, which alleviates mood issues, balances out the mood, and therefore it has been seen to be a very good adjunct across entire spectrum of mental disorders, as well as to give us a sense of mental well-being. So these are five starting points that we can actually start our work with in regards to nutrition and lifestyle, being part of the management of mental health issues. And therefore, what is the way forward? The first is that we as a population understand the role that nutrition and lifestyle plays in our mental well-being and to prevent and to take care of mental disorders. And once we have that understanding, then we can go forward very easily. The second part of it is eat healthy and live healthy. And let us use affirmations to tell ourselves and remind ourselves repeatedly of this beautiful secret that we need to eat healthy and we have to live healthy so that it not only affects our benefits our physical health, it also benefits our mental health. So let us affirm that I choose to love and revere and honor and nourish and nurture my body temple, my mind temple, and my soul temple. I understand that I'm a holistic being which have various parts of health in me which I need to work on. And I choose higher vibration of good nourishment, good thoughts, love and peace and joy, and I choose me. So the third aspect that we can look at for the way forward is please connect with a nutritionist. So if you think you need to know a little bit more on the connection between nutrition and mental health, reach out to nutritionists, get a diet plan for mental health, and it will make a difference. Or just for mental well-being. If you are a nutritionist listening to this post, please reach out to all the groups that are vulnerable and offer the services of nutrition to better mental health and mental well-being. If you are an academician listening to this video, seeing this video, please put nutrition and lifestyle at the fore of your groups that you work with, because it is a big risk factor for issues with mental health. If you are a doctor or a counselor, a psychiatrist especially, any health professional working in the field, please let us connect the nutrition and lifestyle with all the other ways of managing mental health. Now, when we had some discussions with psychiatrists some time back, what they said is that they do not really, I mean, as of now, we have not yet reached the point where we are considering a diet plan or a diet consult with people who have mental health challenges. And when they reflected on it, they said that, yes, of course, how come we have not really thought so much about it? I mean, it is there in the research, but how come we have not brought it into practice? So this is the time for all of us to come together. Let us not compartmentalize the aspect of health into fragments. Let us look at it whole. I would like to read to you a poem called How Melancholy Makes Her Home, which is from my book Soul Songs, published in 2020. So I would like to read this poem to us, and maybe this also will give us a little insight on what the way forward is. So here goes. How melancholy makes her home. I found melancholy at my doorstep, cast away when traitors leapt to joy. Her sweet, eerie breath 5 steps away. My old addictions says to her, breathe this familiar fragrance of raw wounds into me. I suddenly want to feel pain. Melancholy wafts into the door I open, cold, clammy, mesmerizing. She starts to sing pathos. I begin to remember all the knives flung at me. I can feel every cut on my heart. Life seems to me a shamble of loss, where every turn is a chapter in betrayal, and every rise is sealed in failure. Love, success, self worth lie shattered on the floor. I allow pain to infuse into me. Now fear lurks on every road, and I sink into places without hopes. Meanwhile, melancholy sits on my couch and smokes the cigarette of joy. And as she watches joy burn, she smiles. Another home for me. As long as care and concern do not peep through my windows, I am safe. I need to barricade this place from hope. And so, dear friends, this is how melancholy or mental sense of not being balanced, and losing that sense of well-being, and mental issues start from the lower vibrational fear and guilt and shame and feeling lonely and the circumstances of life and of failure and all of that starts from there. But the moment we are able to care, and the moment we come together with concern, and the moment we are able to offer hope to these individuals, I think that is the start, along with everything else that we do, to handle the issues of mental health disorders and the diminished sense of well-being that there is. And so let us all come together, individuals, communities, medical fraternity, and address the issue holistically, and look at giving hope to these people that there can be a big difference made when we work on the plan holistically. And placing this on record from nutritionwithvibha.com, that nutrition and lifestyle is a very important spoke in the wheel that we use for management of mental diseases, disorders. And we at nutritionwithvibha.com, we believe very, very strongly that nutrition and lifestyle is what is going to create a sustainable change into health. And we at today commit that we will work for managing mental well-being as well as mental disorders in a very, very strong foot. We're going to take that forward. We please read the blog, which has many more details about the points that we have talked about. And till the next video, let us nourish our mind and eat healthy, eat nourished, and stay blessed.